So I spake, and anon he answered out of his pitiless heart, Thou art witless, my stranger, or thou hast come from afar, who biddest me either to fear or shun the gods. For the Cyclopes pay no heed to Zeus, lord of the Aegis, nor to the blessed gods, for verily we are better men than they. Nor would I, to shun the enmity of Zeus, spare either thee or thy company, unless my spirit bade me. But tell me, where thou didst stay thy well-wrought ship on thy coming? Was it perchance at the far end of the island, or hard by, that I may know? So spake he, tempting me, but he cheated me not, who knew full much, and I answered him again with words of guile. Ship, Poseidon, the shaker of the earth, brake it to pieces, for he cast it upon the rocks at the border of your country, and brought it nigh to the headland, and the wind bare it thither from the sea. But I, with these my men, escaped from utter doom. So I spake, and out of his pitiless heart he answered me not a word, but sprang up, and laid his hands upon my fellows, and clutching two together dashed them as they had been whelps to the earth, and brain flowed forth upon the ground, and the earth was wet. Then he cut them up piecemeal. So he ate, even as a mountain-bred lion, and ceased not, devouring entrails and flesh and bones with their marrow. And we wept and raised our hands to Zeus, beholding the cruel deeds, and we were at our wits' end. After the Cyclops had filled his huge maw with human flesh, and the milk he drank thereafter, he lay within the cave, stretched out among his sheep. Recently, Christopher Nolan had mentioned in an interview, let me just see if I can pull it up so that I don't misquote it, said that he wanted to make, quote, the most extreme version of a story possible with the Odyssey. This is from an interview with CBS News. What does extreme mean, do we think? Nolan isn't really known for extreme ultra-violence in his movies. And the reason I'm bringing this up today is this is a scene that he's going to have to grapple with in the movie. And so sorry for all of you who are listening to the show after the movie has come out. You all know the answer to this already, so I guess this isn't really timeless content. But is he talking about extremity in terms of what length he goes to depict these things? Or is he just talking about the extremity of making a film, the physical process of shooting on film, shooting for IMAX, real locations? The Cyclops in his movie is an amalgamation of puppetry and character work or actor work with a little bit of CGI augmentation. And I will let you look up the article yourself for his answers to a lot of these things. But I want to use that kind of time capsule conversation about Nolan's film, which will come out in another month or two here. And then those of you listening to this, it might be years old at this point. And I want to transition to going, okay, if we're making an adaptation of the Odyssey, whether it be Nolan's version, whether it be the TV miniseries from the 2000s, whether it be some future adaptation of it, where's the balance between telling your four-quadrant blockbuster story? For those of you maybe not up to snuff on the Hollywood terminology, four-quadrant just means you want to hit all of the different audiences that you possibly can. I can't remember what the four quadrants are exactly, but families, teenagers, adults, etc. How do you reach the widest possible audience? And with a story like this, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you're already partitioning off part of your audience who just aren't ever going to be interested in sword and sandal stories. But of those, do you try to make it be family friendly? And you can see where you go the Ray Harryhausen route and you make the Cyclops a bit more of a monster, because it allows you to square the violence away in a more supernatural and fantasy adventure story. I don't know that modern audiences would absorb this story as we're reading it, as it was initially intended. I think you do have to make these allowances for modern audiences. And that raises the question for me of how much more tolerant audiences were in the day without, having genre conventions exist, without Hollywood marketing and formulas kind of dictating how a story is supposed to unfold in order to kind of just meet the bare expectations or minimum expectations of audiences and how we, absorb stories nowadays. Would an audience nowadays be able to go from these sweeping, mournful, filled with grief scenes into high fantasy where there's extreme violence. I don't think modern audiences are that flexible. I mean, they can do anything, but just within the same realm of a movie, like, or a story, you set your rules of engagement early on, and then you kind of have to stay in that lane throughout. And I'm talking, of course, about mainstream stuff. Obviously, there's exceptions to everything. But audiences of the time, listening to the oral tradition, this performed for them. I would imagine a scene like this is shocking. Now, they're probably a bit more accustomed, both in their daily life, but also in the stories they're absorbing, this level of violence. But if you're swept away in a tale of one man trying to get home, and suddenly you're hearing about his crew being torn asunder and their brains flowing out onto the dirt floor of a cave, I mean, that's intense. I have to imagine this is shocking. I mean, if this was made in the 1930s, I'm thinking of the Universal Pictures monster movies, where Frankenstein particularly, where they had to come out and warn the audience beforehand of, like, you're going to see something that you've never seen before and it might shock you. So just be prepared. Don't say we didn't warn you. Okay, I feel like all of my commentary this book have been very all over the place and tangential. So I'm going to try to refocus for tomorrow's episode, and maybe that's when I share my personal story. We'll find out. So join me here tomorrow. Okay, goodbye. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.